first one will be x minus 2 greater than equal to 0 and x square plus 1 greater than equal to, what will be the answer of this first inequation? First tell me what will be the answer of this first inequation where it is given that x minus 2 greater than equal to 0. From this can I write down minus 2 going to that side, it will be x greater than equal to plus 2, yes or no? So x is greater than equal to 2, that means the values of x will be 2 or more than 2, right, as per the solution of the first inequation. Now the second inequation is concerned where it is saying that x square plus 1 that is itself greater than equal to 1. So can we write down x square is greater than equal to 0, 1 going to that side, plus 1 minus 1, it will be 0. So x square is greater than equal to 0. So what did I say in a previous class, that whenever x being any real number, for x is any real number as a non-zero, either it is a positive number or a negative number, square of that real number is always positive. We discussed it in the last class also. I mean, like from this I make two arguments. First one is if x is 0 itself, then x square will also be 0, no doubt about that, right? If you consider x as 0, then square of x is also 0, 0 square will be 0 only, right? But second part is if x not equal to 0, that is x is either greater than 0 or x is less than 0. Non-zero, that means what? It is having two possibilities, either it is greater than 0 or it is less than 0. Square of a real number is always 0 or positive, correct? So based on that only, so based on that, whenever x is itself positive or x negative, so square of x will be always greater than 0. So that means all values of real number will satisfy this. When I am saying x anything greater than 0, that means I am talking about all positive real numbers. Whenever I am saying x less than 0, means I am talking about all negative real numbers. So second possibility includes all real numbers except 0, and the first possibility speaks about x equal to 0. So combining 1 and 2, it includes all real values. So that means x square greater than equal to 0 implies that x is any real number, x is any real number. So second inequation will be satisfied for x taking any real number, and the first inequation is satisfied for x only equal to 2 or greater than 2. Okay, so this particular one, if x is 2, so for x greater than equal to 2, all real values equal to will satisfy the first inequation, and on the other hand second inequation will be satisfied for all real values, right? So most common value which will satisfy these as well as this is the set of this one, because if you take x anything less than 2, so this one will be satisfied but this can't be satisfied. So that's why we should take such values of x which makes both are satisfied. So that means answer will be then, answer is x greater than equal to 2. Got it? So the answer will be x greater than equal to 2. If I simplify the first one, x into x will be x square plus 2x, that should be greater than x square minus half, first one. So if I take x square part in the LHS, right, so I will get it, this is the only thing left, so x square will be getting cancelled out, so it will be 2x greater than equal to minus 1 by 2, right? Are you getting me? 2 being the positive quantity, so I said that in case of inequation, if a number is positive, then I can do the cross multiplication. So from that, x should be greater than equal to minus 1 by 4. It is, we are getting as the answer of the first inequation. Now in the second one, which is 2 plus x by 2 less than equal to 4. So from this part I can write down x by 2 less than equal to 4 minus 2. So x by 2 is less than equal to 2, right? So what we are getting out from this, we are getting x is less than equal to 4. So the two different inequations we are getting, one we are getting for x greater than minus even first one answer is not correct. First one answer, you can see I have solved it. It is x coming greater than equal to minus 1 by 4. This is the first one, right? So from these two I need to check the common one. There are two root values, we need to mark them. There are two root values, one will be minus 1 by 4, another one will be 4, right? One will be minus 1 by 4, another critical value is about 4. So first one is saying that it is equal to minus 1 by 4 and greater than that. So equal and greater than that means all the values to the right side of minus 1 by 4 on real number line, right? And other one is concerned that is equal to 4 or less than 4. About the solution range of x as per the second inequation, from this we are getting x less than equal to 4, and from the first we are getting x greater than equal to minus 1 by 4. So what is the range of x is common. This one I have shown it by drawing a line above the general number line system, and another one I have drawn it below. So what is the common portion of the line? It is in between minus 1 by 4 to 4, even including both, because both are including the values. So therefore answer will be x greater than equal to minus 1 by 4 but less than equal to plus 4. So this is the answer, this is the common range of x satisfying both the inequations. So we can do it in this way. This is a 4 kg block experiencing a force of 8 Newton, right? And the time duration is 4 seconds. That is important. The work is done by 8 Newton force for 4 seconds. So considering initial velocity is 0, it is important for us to know that the distance travelled by this 4 kg mass, what will be the displacement of 4 kg mass during 4 second time interval. So we know that this displacement knowing is important for us. So we can write down S is equal to half AT square will be the displacement of this mass due to the force. Why? Because we know that whenever a force acts on it, so that produce acceleration, which can be written force by mass, right? Acceleration achieved by the body with which it will travel for 4 seconds due to the applied force. So it will move with the constant acceleration, and that will be F by m. So 8 by 4 it will be 2. So we know that it is 1 by 2 into 4 square. So that means it is 16 meter will be the displacement. 16 meter is coming as the displacement. So therefore we can write down work done. Work done will be force into displacement in general form. So it is 8 Newton into 16 meter, right? So definitely it is 128 joule or Newton meter, you can say, as the work done, right? If I want to know, if I want to say, find in this question only, find the ratio of work done by this force, find the ratio of work done by this force in first 2 second to the last 2 second. It is a journey of 4 second, right? It is a journey of 4 second by this 8 Newton force that has been applied here on this block. Okay, 8 Newton force has been applied on 4 kg mass, and in overall 4 second during which the force is applicable here as per the question. So we can see the work done found is 128 joule. Now I want to expand this question, I want to expand its domain. So now I want to know the ratio of the work done by this force on this block in two parts, the first 2 second work done to the last 2 second work done. So tell me what will be that required ratio of work done by this force on this same mass which is given here, that is 4 kg, in first 2 second to the last 2 second. Still all are getting different answer, that is surprising. All are getting different. So yes, there is no way other than to step into this. Say work done is a scalar quantity. We are already knowing about the work done by this force in the 4 second journey, total 4 second journey, which we have calculated as 128 joule. So from this, because the state of acceleration, see, being it is moving under constant acceleration, so let this is be the position, at t equal to 2 second. So let this is the displacement particle covers in first 2 second, and this is the displacement S2 in last 2 second. So if I can calculate value of S1, it will be again half A into 2 square. Value of A we already know it as 2, we can cancel out, so it is 4 meter. So displacement in first 2 second is just 4 meter. So therefore first work done, if I represent it by W1, are you all getting me? W1, it will be F into S1. So 8 Newton into 4 meter, that means it will be 32 joule, right? It will be 32 joule. So out of 128, if I subtract this 32 joule, right? So I will be getting how much? 96 joule. This is the work done for the last 2 seconds. Work done being a scalar quantity, so it can be algebraically added up. The work done in first 2 seconds, with it, if I add the work done in the last 2 seconds, I will get the work done in the overall journey of 4 seconds, which we earlier got it as 128 joule. So that's why we don't need to calculate the work done separately for the last 2 seconds of the journey, because you must be careful that if you want to calculate S2 separately, if you want to, listen me very carefully, these are the minor conceptual error that you are doing, I think so, in calculating S2. That's why different results you are getting. If you try to get the value of S2 like half A t square, so it will be absolutely a wrong calculation. Answer is why? Because S2 is that displacement which is taken into account from the end of t equal to 2 second to till the end of 4 second. So obviously in the last 2 second journey there is some velocity v1 that is to be taken into account, So V1 will be some velocity available on the mass after traveling through the first 2 seconds, which will be considered to be the initial velocity of the last 2 second journey. So if you want to calculate S2, this is a wrong one. If you want to calculate S2 separately, then you have to do it V1 into 2 plus half into A into 2 square. This you can do, this formula that you can apply to get the S2 value, which is the journey in the last 2 seconds. Are you getting me? Yeah, you can do that. You can do that simply, as we know the overall displacement in 4 seconds, that is equal to 16 meter, right? So you can do that. That will be the clever idea. That will be the clever idea. The trick to go ahead with a less calculation, as because we have already calculated the journey of first 4 seconds, which is 16 meter, out of which if I have got the displacement in first 2 seconds, then why should I go ahead in calculating S2 separately? S2 will be simply 16 minus 4, that is equal to 12 meter. So if you see that 12 meter is the journey related to this block during the last 2 seconds, when still 8 Newton force acts. So 8 into 12, you will get that same 96 joule, what we got earlier, subtracting 32 joule from 128. Are you getting it? So no need, Sejal, no need to note it. See, this is the clever idea. If you can recall properly all those classes, that's why I repeatedly say that once the feature given to revise the videos, revise the classes, watching the videos, you see that in a everyday would like to get the value of S2, then S2 is a journey, S2 is the displacement which is during the last 2 seconds. So if I mark the point, something like the starting point as A, this intermediate point as B, and the last point as C. So S2 is the separation between B and C, that is the displacement in the last 2 seconds. So see, in any displacement equation, whenever you want to know the displacement value between any 2 points in any journey, either it is the displacement between the initial instant to final instant, or it is the displacement between any two intermediate point of the overall journey, right? Either you want to know the displacement of the between the beginning instant to the last instant, or between these two, or between these two, or between any two instants, considering any two instants, right? So always keep it in mind that whatever the displacement you want to write down between 2 points, whichever is the first point, you must be considering the velocity of that point as the initial velocity of that intermediate part of the journey. Are you getting it? If I am trying to, if I would like to write down the formula to find out the value of S2, so being S2 is the separation between B and C, so B being the initial point, so I must consider the velocity at B as the initial velocity of the, because B is the initial point, that into time of journey from B to C plus half into acceleration that available between B and C into time of journey between B and C whole square. Are you getting it? So that is the reason why we must always take care of the velocity at any point if you consider that point as the initial position of the displacement you are going to calculate, right? That's why I am saying that when I can get S2 subtracting S1 from the overall displacement, then why should I take the additional pain in calculating S2? Had it not been the overall displacement known to us, then we would have bound to get the calculation of S2 referring it from B to C. In that case, I am bound to calculate the velocity of B at first, which is the velocity at the end of the first 2 seconds of the journey. Are you getting me? Fine, very good. Spend some time watching that backlog videos. I mean, like the classes what we have done. If you see, if you go back through the videos, if you go back through the revising all those lectures where I discuss the numerical solving based on straight line motion, you will see that many such problems where we have talked about the displacement, successive displacements in one particular journey. If you do remember, I do remember that we have worked with such problems. In many working, you might have seen that in an overall, I mean, like I have repeatedly used that term, first 4 second, first 2 second, last 2 second. What is the objective of using the first? Whenever we use the word first, means we do consider the journey time from initial stopwatch moment onwards. So if I say first 4 second, so first 4 second means t equal to 0 onwards to t equal to 4. If I say first 2 second, t equal to 0 to t equal to 2. In a similar way, the argument is that it is entirely under the even root, or in other words square root. So first of all, x into x plus 1 divided by x plus 2 overall should be greater than equal to 0, right? Because the entire expression is under even root, so this expression value can't be negative. Now it has two possibility. One is x into x plus 1 divided by x plus 2, that is to be 0. So clear indication that whenever numerator to denominator is a 0 quantity, then it is corresponding numerator can only be 0. Either x equal to 0 or x plus 1 0 means x equal to minus 1. So these are the two values that can be one permissible solution set. Okay, even at x equal to 0 and x equal to minus 1, that the expression will be function will be defined. Yes, the expression under the even root is 0, so it is permissible. Second possibility is about the non-zero argument, that is x into x plus 1 whole divided by x plus 2, that need to be positive. It can't be minus 2, because if you take minus 2, then denominator becomes 0, and denominator 0 means it is undefined. An expression to be 0, it is only numerator can be 0, denominator can't be 0. So that's why I can't take x equal to minus 2. If you take x equal to minus 2, then denominator will be 0 and overall expression will be undefined. So that's why we need to exclude that argument of possibility of x equal to minus 2, right? So now about the non-zero possibility, numerator unknown, denominator unknown, but their ratio as a positive quantity. So this implies that whenever numerator by denominator is a non-zero argument, what I have suggested, that multiply the expression with its denominator factor such that your denominator becomes a perfect square. On making it perfect square, you reach to an exclusive argument that since x plus 2 whole square is always positive, square of a real number, square of any real number, a real expression can't be negative. So that's why being x plus 2 whole square is positive. So therefore an exclusive argument comes with the corresponding numerator. The exclusive argument that comes with the corresponding numerator, that it too need to be positive, because positive by positive can only make a positive expression, right? Had it not been doing this, then we could have done two arguments. If I could continue from this step, then we could have done that it is positive by positive or it is negative by negative. So that means two cases we need to solve. That's why I don't want to solve in two cases about non-zero argument of an expression. That's why I have converted into one logic, confirming the denominator is a perfectly whole square, that is confirming the denominator is definitely a positive quantity. Then my solution can only come with the inequation argument of its corresponding numerator. So as I said that being it is non-zero argument and all x positive and the critical value will be 0, minus 1 and minus 2. So if I arrange them minus 2, minus 1 and 0, this can be the order of critical value from least to maximum, that is increasing in order. Since I have said that all x positive, so overall argument will be positive when the corresponding sign convention should come like this. Our required sign convention is about the positive. So positive is appearing for x lying in between minus 2 and minus 1 and for x greater than 0. So this implies that x should be lying between minus 2 and minus 1 and x greater than 0. So overall cases, what we are getting it, overall solution, this is the one set of solution for inequation and this is another set of solution for equal also. So overall answer will be that x greater than 0 as well as 0 is permissible, x less than minus 1 as well as minus 1 is possible, but x minus 2 is not possible. So overall answer will be x greater than minus 2 x will be greater than minus 2 but less than equal to minus 1 or x greater than equal to 0. So this is the solution range for x satisfying this particular function. Yeah, x will be minus 2 as the critical value, but that we can't consider it, we cannot include that. If we take x equal to minus 2, see I haven't taken equal to at minus 2, but I have considered equal at minus 1. I have considered equal at 0 because those are the critical value coming with the term of numerator. And after you can say that after multiplying, but this multiplication has been done for non-zero argument, not for zero argument. Got it? Because to make it 0 already there are 2 0 factors are already available. Why should we need to multiply something more in that? So that multiplication, this increase in factors has been done to ultimately raise this argument, to make your denominator is a perfect whole square, so that you can directly make the argument about denominator is a positive quantity.